Okay, so good morning, everybody. It's Darren Tipton with VB Adrenaline, and we're about 2 hours away from the opening tip of Nebraska versus Kentucky, and then the triple header today from Louisville and the Bridgestone Classic and the Nashville Block Party, which I'm not sure you can see it, but there's Bridgestone Arena literally right over my shoulder. And so we have Hunter Mitchell, who's our Kentucky beat writer. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Sure if you guys can see it, but right down there, the line of Big Red Nation is starting to form already, about half an hour, I think, before the gates open. But you guys can see Go Big Red. Nebraska Nation's already lining up, filling up the line, waiting to get into Bridgestone Arena. And so Hunter's on his way in. I have tickets as well, but as Hunter makes his way in, we thought last night after the Lipscomb match, we would throw together a quick 45-minute pregame breakdown of the Kentucky versus Nebraska match today, since we were talking about it, and kind of cover both teams definitely for the site. And so as soon as Hunter gets in there and gets his laptop set up, we will do a breakdown for both teams, the keys, the position breakdowns, and keys to the match for Kentucky and Nebraska. And we know we have both passionate fan bases on both sides that are waiting for that to come on at noon Eastern today, 11 Central Time in the Nebraska time zone. So we'll break those things down, talk about the position matchups as both teams get underway. I guess Nebraska has 3 matches under their belt after the successful home weekend last weekend in Lincoln, the First Serve Showcase. And then Kentucky, honestly, I think to a lot of people's surprises, how well they played in the opener, just how dominant they looked last night versus Lipscomb, and all of the position questions. And we're going to talk about that more, I guess, today with Hunter, as in a lot of ways, Kentucky and Nebraska are similar with their depth. Now, a lot of the names, of course, for Nebraska are going to be a lot more well-known just because it's Nebraska and there's no team in the nation that gets talked about as much. And there's Hunter getting sat down, but no team gets talked about as much as Nebraska in the country. We'll add Hunter there, but similar to Nebraska, Kentucky has a lot of the same wealth of talent, I guess. And if you look at the recruiting classes, this junior or third year class, when Nebraska had the dream team, if you will, this class with Brooklyn DeLay and Benjamin, and they were number 3 or 4 in the country that same year. I guess they were a year behind. No, it was the same year with Benjamin. They were 3 or 4 in the country that exact same year. They just didn't get the publicity, of course, that Nebraska did, and they didn't all come in and play as true freshmen. But now they're getting healthy and they're getting experience. And you had the setter, Ava Sarafa, who redshirted and then just played behind, a 4-year starter, and she got her chance last night. So they have depth, and they had competitions in camp and in the off season that Craig Skinner has a lot of flexibility to his lineup. They're just not Nebraska with the media frenzy and the national fan base that everybody talks about it day in, day out. But you're going to find, as Hunter jumps on here, they have a lot of the same issues that Big Red Nation has, where Craig can move his lineup around day in, day out. Just doesn't quite get talked about like DBK's lineup as well. And so we welcome Hunter. Good morning, as you're inside Bridgestone Arena. And so Hunter, good morning, and thanks for joining us. And as we're just getting started, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here. There's already a ton of red in here. Unsurprisingly, we knew this was going to be a road game for Kentucky, but there's already so much red in the building, so it's going to be a loud one for sure.
Well, let me show you. I was showing the fan base, but outside, you can see the red line over my shoulder, lined up outside Bridgestone. So
but you can kind of see it behind me already. If I do a quick circle, I don't see any blue yet. It's all red in here. No, so
I'm not going to get into that. I go off on that enough. But the ticket sales were that, and Nebraska, that's just what they are. And so, I put on one of the slides, Hunter, that first, in quotes, road game for Nebraska. That just meant that they're not sleeping in their own beds.
Right.
Not that they'll be getting booed by any means, but So let's jump into it a little bit. And first, just your initial thoughts. Real quick on the Lipscomb game, and as we break down today's game, real quick, your thoughts on just how Kentucky looked out of the gate. Were you surprised at how well they took care of Lipscomb in straight sets, being their first match?
You kind of hit the point a second ago just about the depth that Craig has. He hasn't really had that luxury in a long time. So this kind of is new territory for him and for Kentucky, just because usually they dealt with so many injuries in the last several years. They've had transfers on the Pens leave. So they haven't had, I don't think, the depth that maybe he would like or that the staff was expecting to have. This year, they finally have it again. Yesterday against Lipscomb, he didn't really use a lot of that depth. I was kind of surprised, actually, that he didn't try and give more of a go. But I also know that being their first game, this is obviously Nebraska's third game already now. Like, you want to get your starters some reps. That way, to come today, like, you're not playing, Nebraska just took the floor. That's why you're hearing all the cheering. But that way they've got some experience playing together. And so, first off, I just think the depth is a really, really cool thing that Craig gets to kind of play with this year, because it's not something he's ever had. Yesterday against Lipscomb, to start the match, I think that first set is what Kentucky could eventually be come the end of the year, given what they have in terms of the talent on the pins with Eva and Brooklyn. They started that set up 9-0, and Lipscomb burned both of its timeouts before they even got to 10 points. So the offense to begin things was incredible. Brooklyn flying on the left hand, and then they had Eva flying out of the back row, and then that flipped. Like, they haven't had the big available every rotation on the floor really since Leah and Allie were here. Leah Edmond, Allie Sumler, back when they were playing in 2019. So that's kind of a new wrinkle that they haven't got to utilize in a while. I was pleasantly surprised with how well Ava set yesterday. Obviously, I knew she was talented whenever she was coming into Kentucky years ago. A lot of people thought she might challenge Emma for that starting center role. We've known that she's talented. It's just been a matter of, you haven't played for 2 years, and all of a sudden you're being given the reins to this offense that has the potential to be really good, but a lot of that's going to dictate or be dictated by whether or not you are able to set it up as a setter. So I was really pleased with how well she did. She had 33 assists. She had 7 digs. She had a block. She looked confident. And to me, that's one of the biggest things for a setter is, do they look confident in their decision making? Now, You're playing Lipscomb yesterday and Nebraska today. So the confidence, I think it's going to be something to keep an eye on. Does that continue when you're playing a team that is the caliber of Nebraska, that has the athletes on the other side of the net? If things go poorly for 5 or 6 points, are you still able to keep your confidence and decision making at a high enough level so you can get your team out of it? That's, I think, something to watch for this today with Ava as they go and kind of see how good can this offense be against a really, really talented team. Not that Lipscomb is a talent, but they're always competing for their conference championship. But Nebraska is just a whole other animal, obviously, as you know. So, but otherwise, I thought they had a great debut. Brooklyn looks like Brooklyn. I mean, somehow she continues to get better every year. 18 kills in a 3-set match. She only had, like, I think, 3 errors. Despite how much she is still swinging, like she's just, again, having Eva Hudson on the floor to pull attention away from her. You could tell she was going up and swinging against either, half a block or only one blocker, far more than she ever was last year when it felt like they didn't have enough offense opposite her. So I think that's going to be something that, especially today against Nebraska, Nebraska's going to have to figure out, how do you defend Brooklyn and Eva when they're both on the floor at the same time? So.
Right. And as we get into it, and I know most of our viewers that are going to be on here are going to be Nebraska viewers. And so we definitely want to give the insight on them and talk about Nebraska as well. And so in this matchup last year, with Kentucky last year, obviously the downfall was in the middle and just not having anything to go to other than Brooklyn,
right.
Not having any help, especially in the middles. I wrote an article this summer of them almost looking forward to this match, which you'll talk about a little breaking news again here in a little bit. We'll wait on that and that build up. But in that match, the middles that walked out were their first literally reps ever in an NCAA match. And they had to play Andy Jackson and Becca Alec. And I remember literally, I almost had the feeling of never being a parent before, of sending your kid off to play in the first tackle football game. And
right,
60-pound kid playing against the 200-pound running back and wanting to go grab them off the floor and like tell the coach to stop or like stop the fight. Like that's how I felt watching those two middles play against Andy Jackson. And I had always seen her as like the smiley, like sweet interview person. And in that match, she just was nothing but nasty to Kentucky middles. And I was so mad at Getzenberger for transferring and leaving them with no experience, because Craig was like looking down the bench, like, who do you want me to put in? Right. And so that's the big issue today, was they're back, and to see how much they've grown, because Nebraska has the exact same middles back. And we'll see now. How have you grown up? It's a revenge match for them, and not like they're going to dominate Nebraska in the middle, because
not many people are.
No, nobody will. And Andy is the best in the game. And Becca Alec was the MVP of the First Serve Showcase. But to 100%. See if they've closed that gap, right? And to me, that's the key to the match. That's where Nebraska has the huge advantage there and at the center position, with Bergen Riley, a 2-time All-American. But how have they closed the gap? And do they want to compete, or do they look over the bench again, right? Like, it's those things that they do. And Andy Jackson is nasty. That's this Nebraska team. They see blood in the water, and especially now, like, DBK, you've seen those matches, right? She'll smile in the press conferences and say the right thing, but she would like to rip your head off in the match as well. And we'll talk about keys, but you and I were texting last night. Like, I just want to see this team because in the years past, I've seen too many Kentucky matches where a very talented team gets hit a couple times and puts their heads down and just gets
Yep.
swept, right?
It
Or
takes
gets
too
beat.
long. Yeah, it takes them too long to get in the match against Nebraska a lot. So
Yeah.
today, that's going to be one of the keys. You cannot wait until midway through set two to like, oh, okay, cool. Now we're comfortable. We can actually play with them. Like if you do that, you're letting Nebraska go out early, and you're not going to chance.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned it, like that's going to be a big key. It felt like last year, for example. I can't remember if they got swept or if that was the one where they took them to four, but they still got dominated for most of that match. But like the point is, it felt like it wasn't until that third set when it got kind of close that it was like, oh, they finally seem like they think they can at least do some things.
Mhm.
That can't happen. You have to be, on it early today. Andy Jackson is so talented as a middle, he's also so fast. Like that's, I think, something that we kind of forget sometimes with Andy Jackson because he's so high above the net. Her foot speed is so quick. And I will say, like Craig will be the first to admit it. Kentucky has never really been a big blocking program. Like they've never had blockers that were perennially known across the country. They've never been a team that really relied on the ground to get them far in the tournament or in the season. This year, even talking to him yesterday, Amaya Tillman has worked, as you know,
Yes.
the former middle blocker for Louisville and Meredith Jewel Frey for that matter, with these blockers already. The blocking looked different yesterday. I mean, they had 8 blocks against Lipscomb, and I think in years past, they probably would have had 4, maybe 5 against a team like Lipscomb. It just felt like they were reading better and setting and sealing their block better. Obviously, having a middle blocker in Lindsay Clark, who's 6'6", helps them things. They probably have some size in the middle. And so her ability to get up there and touch so high above the net it gives other hitters something to think about. So that I think is something to watch for today. How many balls is she able to get her hands on, or is
Mhm.
she able to produce? Because I do think that she could be an X factor for them if they want to get a win. She's going to have to be active at the net and physical at the net to try and slow down the Andy Jacksons and Rebecca Alex and Taylor Lansbury. Like she's going to have to
Yeah.
get some hands on these balls at the net. Because otherwise, these pin hitters, they just put the ball too hard. And that's true for Nebraska, too. Like when you have Brooklyn and Eva on the pins, like you've got to find a way to at least touch something to slow them down. Obviously, when you Choboy and Bozinger and stuff like that, they can get. It seems like every ball they just swung at them. But if they're able to touch a lot of these balls that Kentucky is swinging, that's true for them as well. So I don't know if you want me to hit on the kind of the breaking news, so to speak, on the middle.
Let,
Um,
let's go through a couple, and we'll come back to this because I want to talk about a
okay.
couple because I think the position breakdowns, and we'll go quick, but
Yeah.
I give you mine because I actually think the position breakdowns are interesting because it
Yes.
may be a couple of the few times all year um 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 and they that that Nebraska might be actually in, like here, Harper Murray and Brooklyn DeLay, where Harper might be not actually have the advantage just because it's Brooklyn
Right.
DeLay, where it might be a slight underdog in that battle.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, I think that Brooklyn, she's evolved so much since she first got to Kentucky. Remember her first season? They even played Nebraska. That was that famous like 65-second rally that continues to go viral, where they like her and Nebraska were going at it, and she couldn't. She really struggled early in her career to find the floor. She had these great swings, but she wasn't targeting everything in the court in a way that really was getting her kills. Now that obviously isn't a problem as much. So I do think that the Kentucky's big advantage today is on the left. I think Eva Hudson and Brooklyn DeLay are both probably better than Harper Murray and Taylor Landfair. That's not to say that it's like by some massive margin that Landfair and Murray can't compete with that. Like we know how good they are. They are ridiculously talented. The problem is I think Nebraska probably has them beat everywhere else. You can maybe argue at the libero spot. It's kind of a toss up between Choboy and Fuzzo. But really, like I think the less hands, if Kentucky is going to win today, Eva Hudson and Brooklyn DeLay are going to have to absolutely go off. They're going to have to go off. and be far and away better than Nebraska's 2 pins on the left. But again, that's a lot to ask for because Harper Murray and Taylor Lindsay are so talented and really just so good at finding spots on the floor when they don't have a perfect set, finding ways to get the ball to the ground. So,
yeah, and the same thing is with both. I think Landfair could be a huge, depending how they play that
yeah.
with Sigler on the offensive end, but
Mhm.
Landfair has been so dominant with her blocking,
Right.
with what she can do as well. How Danny plays that in the middle, of course, and this was pre-recorded, but Andy Jackson, we know, Becca Alec as well, with their middles, the advantage with Nebraska, I think, is just minimizing and closing that gap with what Kentucky does. We'll come back to that in just a second, but I wanted to talk about the opposites.
Yeah.
Virginia, Adriano, depending on, again, what Danny does there, she's been alternating matches, or at least the first weekend. But Asia, I think, obviously, on the offensive end, Adriano has been very, very good in her first couple matches. But Asia on the defensive end with what she does, I think has a slight advantage. I still think Adriano and the offensive ability has the advantage if that's the decision that Danny makes. But defensively, I think the Cats and Asia have the advantage there. I still think Nebraska in the end has the advantage with what they do offensively.
Yeah, and Asia, I think, is going to surprise people. Maybe don't watch Kentucky a lot. She's kind of undersized for a pin hitter. I think she's only 5'10", especially a right side pin hitter because you obviously want to put some size and physicality against opposing left sides. But Asia is an incredibly talented blocker. She actually led the team yesterday in blocks. So she didn't have a great game offensively yesterday, which actually surprised me a little bit. I thought she was going to be a little bit stronger offensively yesterday. But defensively, she just closes and seals the net so well. She's physical up there, and she can jump out of the skin. So I am very intrigued to see how she looks on that right pin again against these left side pins for Nebraska, because I think she's one of those that you don't expect her to be as physical at the net as she is. So I think she can actually come out and surprise you a little bit if she comes out early and gets some blocks. I'll be curious to see is she able to at all kind of bother Harper Murray or Taylor Lindsay at all in the left, and kind of make them start second guessing some of those shots that they're so used to. Offensively, though, you are right. I think Nebraska absolutely has the advantage there, at least right now. Asia on paper is really, really intriguing on the right. She has such a strong arm. And talking of coaching staff, they've even mentioned like her arm has actually gotten way stronger. And you could see that yesterday. She was clobbering the ball. Her problem yesterday was she was just clobbering it right to where defenders were. So when you're playing a team like Nebraska, whose defenders seem to be all over the place, you really have to be intentional with your placement and make sure it's not enough against Nebraska to just hit the ball hard. Like they're going to dig it. You cannot just win a game by hoping that if you hit the ball hard enough, Nebraska won't be able to take the ball. They're so talented and gifted defensively, so you really have to be smart and strategic with your placement. And so I'm hoping that she's able to play a little bit stronger on the offensive end today than she was yesterday. That's a tall order because again, you're going up against these big talented players from Nebraska. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, they have, and depending if they would go, the other way with what they've done. But now the one in my slide got actually cut off here. But my big debate is, and it'll be a debate here, but I had actually taken Tuzzo over Choboy at libero, and I have her as one of the top bros in the country. So I give Kentucky a slight edge. Now, as a group with Mock and Choboy together, I give Nebraska the edge as a group defensively. But bro to bro, I give Kentucky the upper hand as Tuzzo over.
That's why a lot of people gets to a lot of balls. She has no consistency almost anything. yesterday there was a play they ran the out of system where took the ball after they gave us the full set, the first contact, and just jump set the ball to Brooklyn in the back row. Like you don't see a lot of liberos jump setting a back row player on the big as a first option out of system, and that's just I think a testament to yes the talent of these pin hitters, but also Tuzzo's ability to be an athlete and just her setting ability, her IQ. Like she's able to do that because of how much she's grown, even since when she got here a couple of years ago. She beat out Eleanor Bevan for that libero spot, which I think sometimes we forget. Like Eleanor Bevan was a great libero. She won SEC Libero of the Year her freshman year. Like she was a very talented libero for contestant. So for Molly to beat her out, that was a big deal. And so I think that she's someone you really have to kind of reach out and say, yeah, she was going to be a difference maker. Also, her service, great service she has. 3 or 4 aces yesterday too. So one of the front limitations in serving, she's not going to have service lives. So that's another thing to watch. But again, Lenny Chokley is so talented. I watched the game last week and was so impressed with how much he seems to and have improved. Just this last. So I think libero matches will be fun to watch too.
Yeah, we have a great question came in here. Tyler Beatman said it should be a good match. Both sides have some good weapons, of course. Maybe Nebraska's block and backcourt defense is a little bit better. I think Nebraska's block is probably quite a bit better.
I think it's a lot of bit better at this point in the season.
Yeah, but that's a great question. Maybe I think the backcourt defense of Kentucky has to be what carries them. They're going to have to win all those scrap points, which has been what I commented last week. That's what it didn't scare me because I've been very open how much of a fan I am of DBK. You've known that. I was one of the weirdos that loved Louisville and Kentucky. I mean, I am such a fan of her and her family, and that's what she does with her culture, right? Like she gets superstars and grinders to all play the same way. There's no ego. It's just her culture. And when she was getting, let's just say, others who maybe hadn't completely bought in to make hustle plays and effort plays last week, that's when I texted a couple people and said, uh-oh, meaning I thought that was something in the past that maybe, Nebraska had lacked at times. And that's happened in other sports, right? When you bring all-stars in, it's hard to get them sometimes to buy into that grinder team mentality. And that's what Danny does the best, I think.
Thank you, too. 100%.
And that's what she always did at Louisville. And that's what I saw last weekend that I was so impressed with. And granted, hey, newness, right? You got the new school clothes right away, and right, you get to wear the new tennis shoes to school the first day. It's awesome. And then it's a month in. But when I saw that, I was like, uh-oh, NCAA. If they're doing that with all this talent, you need to be worried. Because, yes, they have the best talent in college volleyball and the most depth. And that's what I was worried about. And for everybody else. And so when they were getting to all the hustle plays and the balls that maybe had dropped at other times, and you got Choboy flying all over, making those plays and showing some of that leadership. And I wrote the article for the Nebraska side of her, her taking that bro jersey, right? Like mine of come rip it off me, right? Like as a coach, I think on Kentucky, sometimes I wish players would take more of that greediness in a good way, right? Mm-hmm. Of no, come, this is mine. And let's start doing that. And that's a little bit of what DBK does that you can't quantify or they don't talk about on TV stations, that the behind the scenes stuff. And when they do that, I think that's what Craig's done really, really well over the years, that people just don't, general fans just don't get to see or talk about. So when they're doing that already. So let's get to some of the position breakdowns and what I had. You tell me what I might be wrong on. But here's what I went through with the breakdowns of positions. So I had the advantage delay over Murray. I know social media wise that might not sit well, but volleyball wise, do you agree with that, Hunter?
I agree with that. I mean, Brooklyn was ninth in the country in coastal set last year. Obviously, she's an All-American. She's on that preseason Player of the Year award, which I believe Harper Murray is too. It's not to say that Harper Murray isn't all these things as well. What makes Brooklyn stand out to me as an outside is her IQ, how intelligent she's gotten since getting here. So knowing and recognizing, hey, I have a fully formed block and this has been a great set. Brooklyn is almost as good, if not better, than anyone in the game at knowing how to recycle the point in a spot where she can get a better ball back. So I think Brooklyn, her IQ is something that really makes her stand out about really any aspect that she plays for that. I think that combines her south, obviously, she has even the back row. It's only gotten stronger. Again, I think if you didn't get to watch Lipson yesterday, you'll notice that very early today, she has, again, gotten stronger as she goes. So I would agree with that.
Yep. And then obviously Bergen Riley, two-time All-American, Ava Sarafa, one start under her belt. Huge advantage for Nebraska there, which they're going to have in probably every match this year, right?
Yep.
And then we go to the other outside, and we'll talk more about that setter matchup with Sarafa. This is a huge match for her, but to prove it, and that's a lot to ask, but it's also why you sign up to go to a school like Nebraska or Kentucky, right? You've been there 3 years, and hey, this is why you go there, right? Hudson Sigler, again, T is going to be amazing. She is very talented, but Hudson, All-American. This is why Kentucky got her. That's why she came to Kentucky. I give it to Hudson. But you also have that Sigler Landfair combo. But I still go ahead.
So I would agree with that. I think Hudson's power, but also I think something that I guess I didn't think about fun stuff. Also her attitude. So I think that it's like and all of that matter. She's so excited to come up. That's like the long rallies. Last year it was fun. Mixing that with her. But you know what? We need a point. We need the freaking ball and get out of my way. And that is Eva Hudson in art. That's exactly what she is. And I think that mentality has led to a lot of things that. And so I would say that's also something that we didn't really think about when we saw her signing, that gives her, again, that kind of extra advantage. That's spot.
Yep. And you kind of broke up there with that, but Hunter just kind of talked about that alpha, like give me the ball, kind of like I think Harper Murray does that a lot at times in big matches, and we'll talk about that when we go through keys to the game on the next slide. But then we go to the middles, and you want to talk about your breaking news now with the starting lineups.
Yeah, so Lizzie Carr will be back in the middle again. That's not a surprise. But today, Baltimore will be getting a start, not starting nine. So yesterday, when Washington got to start, I think it surprised a lot of people, myself included, just because Brooke was so consistent last year and was a staple in the middle for Kentucky. So Craig, when I talked about him in the game, he said, I told Kennedy and Brooke I wanted to start both of them this weekend. So they started Kennedy yesterday, and they're going to start this tomorrow. So Brooke will be starting today in the middle, unless something is changed us in that. Brooke will be starting today in the middle, which means I think that slide attack we're going to see a lot more consistently than we saw yesterday. Yesterday was 2 times but Kennedy doesn't really swing on it a whole lot. Instead of kind of into it. That is Brooks' bread and butter. So the sliding is very much in their play today, which is good because Kentucky is not generate more points behind the center today. Brooks is also a bigger block and a lot more physical as a blocker. So I think that's another thing that he kind of wants to pair again against this Nebraska team. All these talented hitters try and find a way to get more physical blocking. So Brooke and Lizzie will get the start today in the middle.
Yep. So they're going back to with Izzy Carr. They're much more of a block threat, and Baltimore gets that rematch from last year versus Andy Jackson. So she gets to relive that first start versus the Huskers last year. So big news there. And again, it shows that that lineup flexibility that Skinner has, just like Nebraska and Danny have as well. Now we go on, but still with Jackson and Alec in the middle, huge advantage there, it appears, to the Huskers. And those check marks couldn't be big enough. They were last year. So that truly is the advantage in the match. And really how much, Multima and Carr can minimize that and close that gap for the Cats. Probably going to tell a lot of the story this afternoon in Nashville. So as we move to the right side, Asia Thigpen and then Adriano, we think Czech could play. I guess we haven't seen the lineups yet for them, but that's coming up. So Adriano, we think offensively, Thigpen defensively for the Cats. We go through that. And then Tuzzo with the bros, both very, very talented, do good things in completely different ways. You're lucky to get Molly to say many words at all. And
very true.
Right. And then Joe Boy is all over the place, but we gave the slight advantage to Tuzzo, who I picked as my defensive player of the year. So I better pick her here. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think if it's topped up in some ways, and I know how good Chilwell is, but I have no issue giving the slight edge to Molly, just because I think Molly's athleticism and her instincts too. She's just so good at also knowing whenever she has to step, who the right step is, and putting the ball in a good position for it to be successful. So I don't have any qualms about Tezzo getting that one too. But again, I think it's close. Like Chilwell is so talented, but that's one of those that could very well be the top of it. So.
Okay. Yep. And then we come to serve specialist, Olivia Mock, and wasn't sure exactly who that would be for Kentucky, but Mock.
They got one.
Who is it?
So this is something that they did yesterday. That was a new wrinkle that I wasn't expecting to see. So whenever they are in rotation 6, and we'll see if they do it again today, they actually do a double play. So they will take Ava Sarafa out of right front and put Jordan Bailey in for a bigger block. And then Cassie O'Brien comes in to serve for them. So they have a setter on the floor. So he actually rattled off 2 straight aces yesterday. When I was talking to him after the game, he said that there was either in the exhibition against Ohio State or in a practice in a blue-white scrimmage, she rattled off 10 points in a row. So she is a very strong server. And I think that he really likes having that kind of unique added benefit of taking Sarafa out for a bigger block of Jordan Bailey. Jordan Bailey is a physical blocker. So having her up there alongside of Lizzie Carr is a huge slot. So that's just something to watch for. We'll see if they do it again today. They had a ton of success with it yesterday against Nashville. So that'll be something to look for.
There we go. All right. So match keys, we'll talk through these. I'm going to go through for the Huskers what I think is just important for them. They have been so dominating this year so far, and when they've been good, it's been getting off to a great start. Again, I think they have just intimidated opponents by coming out and taking care of them early. Again, when they have so much depth and so much talent, in a way, it's like they're battling for playing time within their own program. And I know I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's like they're showing every day, almost like on a professional team, they're battling for playing time within their own roster, right? So it's almost like in an NFL training camp where you're being evaluated every day amongst your own roster, right? So every day is a competition. So they don't have days to take days off and not look good. So they know they're being evaluated every day. There isn't a day to take off. And plus, they're on national TV again. They're in a big environment, a big stadium, and they know that, maybe somebody questioned them, so they need a sweep against another team, and that's another reason to come out big. I think they feed the middle, which Danny likes to do anyways, and it's a huge advantage until Kentucky figures out a way to stop that. I think they know that Kentucky will try to serve aggressively, just like they thought Pitt would last weekend, and they took care of that, as has been one of Danny's preaching points since she got there. And I think it's important for them to come out with the same emotion and fire as they did last weekend at home, to prove that they can take that on the road, even though as we look behind you, we see it looks exactly like it did in Lincoln last week. And again, and proving they can play with the intensity they did in their quote unquote first road match, even though it's going to sound like it did in Lincoln, but you had to pack, you had to travel, you're away from home for a couple days, right? Those newbies, just all those different things of a road match. Now, Danny and the coaching staff want to see, do you handle it the same way? Do you come out with the same intensity? Signs of a great team, a national championship team? Do you do all the little things? So the staff is preaching, can you be as dominant now that we are not at home? So they're still preaching and testing. Can you be as great now that we're not at Lincoln? So they still have a lot to prove, even though they're not at home. And by the way, you're playing one of the top teams in the country.
Yep.
Hunter, go ahead for the Cats.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked honestly about a lot of these already. So the big thing is, like you mentioned, they are going to have to make sure they come out and don't start slow. If you start slow against a team like Nebraska, you're probably going to lose. So come out early, put your foot on the gas early, see if you can get Nebraska comfortable. When you play big teams like this, one of the things I always try and say is, like, see if you can strike first and make them uncomfortable first. If you can get them on the field before they're able to get you on yours, then you might be able to have more success throughout the entire of the match, even with more in the third term. Yesterday, talking to Craig, just a few more that aren't even on here, he really wants to see more success for them on first ball plays. So they were really, really good yesterday. It's good that he was trying to see the back pages, but he also really wants to make sure that instead of getting the ball up to Ava, let's put the ball down the first time. Let's not get a lot of long rallies. So he really is looking at first ball play percentage. Are they actually getting the ball and sliding out at a time when they should be? Getting them these longer routes, which we really do. I also think that they have got to make sure they really work on the centers today. Yesterday they got a lot of offense from the left hand, which we know is going to be the team of the season. It's not surprising, but Asia has to get involved. Wiggins have to get involved. Brooke has to get involved on the side. But they've got to find a way to get behind the center. That's like that. Didn't have the pick that's often with the Barrow. The blockers just all team towards her. Make sure you can't do that. To do that, you're leading to the bottom of the middle. And Ava showed yesterday she loves the big set. Set that big, I mean, probably at minimum of 10 or 11 times that match. I love setting it. It's people for 14 of that. The other one is don't fly out of that. But that's the you don't get a ton of fun. You still have that big, but they just got to find a way to and then obviously that's all start stand at 17. Right? Last time, out. I think it's they're stock this. So I think if they're tough, that you have those on, but you also have to be really strong in some trap that are not off.
And got a lot of that. Hunter broke up a little bit, but he talked a lot about, I think, serve aggressive, serve receive has to be, because Nebraska is going to do that as well. The serve receive, exactly. Thank you, Stephen. Yes. I apologize. Lipscomb was technically the first road match for Nebraska. Yes, it was. We apologize. The first road weekend for Nebraska, not the first road match. Stephen, we apologize. So this is the first road weekend, Stephen, for Nebraska, not the first technical road match. And
Darren, you wanna give a prediction so they hop off here?
Yeah. And so what to expect, a prediction. My biggest thing for Nebraska, it's the thing we talked about. I just think you see Nebraska, they treat it like another match. I think Landfair is going to play a huge role. I just want to see if they come out, because they were so super locked in last week. They carry that on the road. Before, when I was writing up my preseason predictions for Kentucky yesterday afternoon, I did not feel good at all about this. Everything was feeling like a sweep, and then they came out so strong. That's the Minnesota Viking fan in me, Hunter, for 30 years. When I start to get excited, then things go bad, right? So if I write bad stuff, then maybe things are good. And if I just expect bad, then I'm not disappointed. Okay, you understand that?
Right? Yeah.
And Nebraska, they just did good things. So if I write good things, they get it anyways, right? And so it's good things. Now, people are paying money for this. Let's have a good match. Now, I do think Kentucky does not get swept. And last spring, I said this would be number 1 versus number 4 in the country. When it happened, we didn't quite get that. I think a lot of that ended up being based on just how poorly Kentucky played in the spring match versus Louisville, which Craig will tell you he could give a rip about that. But I still don't think you look that bad. And it was bad. I can't get that out of my mind, so I'm excited to get over there and watch this, because I want to erase that couple hours from my mind. And I just got to get that thought out of my mind. Nebraska's so experienced. Kentucky's not there yet. Nebraska wins. I say 3-1. If this game's played later and Kentucky's got more experience, maybe Kentucky's got to do everything right. And for Kentucky to have a chance, I think that I've got to be able to see that this squad is completely different than I joined the Skinner bandwagon a year late, I guess. I just haven't seen a Kentucky team that has been different, where somebody steps up and says, you're not doing that to us. Every time, I joined this Kentucky thing a year late, and every team, nobody has stepped up and said, we're not doing this. Every team has just taken it, and they've never won a game like this, and they've always caved. And I get it that maybe they haven't been talented enough or injuries or blah, 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 blah. But they're like 0-20 in matches like this, Hunter. And I know there were the good old days, but I've never seen one. And so I just want them to compete. And I want them to act like Nebraska acted last week. And I don't care if it's a great 5-set match and they go blow to blow with them, but they got 5 stars. They got great recruits. Act like it, right? Yes. And go blow to blow with them and don't back down and play amazing volleyball and give the fans just amazing action and walk off and get moved up in the rankings, even if you lose, because everybody in volleyball is like, holy crap, is Kentucky good? That's what I want.
Yep. I agree. I think it's going to be a really competitive game. I do think Nebraska will win it, but I think it's a close match. I agree. I think if it's later with Ada, maybe I would have more set. It could be a little bit different, but I think Nebraska wins today. But I don't think that's any kind of indictment on what I think when it gets up in the rest of the conference schedule. I think that 0-20, I think it's going to change here shortly with some of these teams we're playing. So.
Yeah, but I want, like, what you should want is the rest of the SEC. They'll never come out and say it, but like that burnt orange team, you want to be like, holy crap, is Kentucky good?
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
But they haven't done that because of how you act, and like somebody step up and be like, we're not taking it. You know what I mean? And you could be timid, you could be laid back, and you could be the best team nobody ever talks about, but just like, we're not taking it anymore. And take a little bit of Nebraska in you. Like, it's okay. We're not getting kicked around. And that's what I want. And let the chips fall, maybe, but earn Nebraska's respect on the court. You know what I'm saying?
It's starting, so we are about no time.
I better hustle over and watch the thing.
You better hurry.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.